you don't just see the big picture. You start paying attention to the small things and the details and the subtle colors and grasses. You think, oh yeah, that's a brown field. Oh no, that's not a brown field. There's oranges and greens and yellows and every shade in between. For me as an artist, I just love it over there because I have learned over the years how to look at things. The sense of depth that you get when you look out, it's just a whole different experience. It's just magical to me. So, as you can tell, one of my favorite places. First of all, I gessoed the board. This is the board that I'm working on. While the gesso is wet, I use a tool. Sometimes it's something like this, a pointed stick, and start making marks in the wet gesso just to give me an idea and placement of where things are going to go. But it also adds another layer of texture to my work, which I love. I'm kind of a texture freak. I like anything that will add texture. It will actually end up being a part of the painting in a very subtle way. You'll be able to see that coming through the texture. So I add the texture, marks, let it dry, and then I can start laying in washes of color and this is going to be very layered as far as color is concerned, very layered. Everything I put on eventually will come through in the finished painting. My next step is to do a little more of this laying in of color. I use a lot of paint directly from the tube sometimes. This color here, I used a mixture of Naples yellow and cadmium yellow deep to get this orangey yellow that I'm using. It's all acrylic. I don't stray very far from acrylics because I've used them so long. I know how they react. I know my way around, I guess, acrylics. I know what they'll do. So I'm going to use a little of this red oxide just to give another layer in places of color. And again, when I actually start putting detail, I'm not a real detailed painter. A lot of my things don't have a lot of detail, but an illusion of detail, I guess is what you'd call it. So sometimes I use, in fact, this yellow that I laid in, I used just a stick to make the grass-like shapes. And you can see the texture coming through in the strokes that I make. I don't have a grand plan when I start. I don't have it mapped out step by step what I'm going to do. So it just kind of takes shape as I go. And so now I want to put some more layers of color in. And I kind of mix my paint intuitively. It's just, I have in mind the color that I want, and I just mix till I think I've got it. And I think I'm getting, that's a good choice of color. I'm going to add just a tiny, tiny bit of black to it. To make it more of a grayer green. Maybe a little more. Ah, yeah, that's looking good. Some of the things that I do are a direct result of doing printmaking. Now this handy dandy little tool is actually for making pies, but I think it's great for making grasses also. So what I'm going to do, I'm layering little bits and pieces of color in here that again, at the finished piece, you'll see all these colors coming through. So I just keep working until I think I have enough of one color, and then I'll move on and do some more in a different color. I try to keep my painting very loose, and if I feel like I'm getting too tight or too much detail, usually it's an indication that I'm not going to like the finished product. Now, over here, this grass, I don't know if you can see it in the picture, has some different, it's a different variety of grass, and it's got some seed heads on it. So I'm trying to, it's not going to look exactly like that, but I want to kind of have that feel. And this is, like I said, it's a pretty tedious process. You just have to keep at it. So as you can see, I do a lot of, mark making. As you can see, I am certainly not putting a lot of detail. I'm just giving the illusion of grass-like shapes. I get a question a lot about, well, how did you learn to do what you do? You know, yes, I went to school, yes, I went to art school to learn to be an artist, but you really learn to be an artist by doing it. So a lot of the things, you just have to make a lot of mistakes.